Hello, this is Brian Foster. I am speaking to you about Spiritism, questions and answers about Spiritism on October 18th, 2021. This is the time we have where please fill in your comments and I will attempt to answer whatever question you have. But before we begin, I'd like to start with a prayer for our session. Dear Jesus, please open people's hearts and minds to know that there is a world above us, a world that loves us, a world that guides us, that spirits are around us, that think the best of us. There's a whole army of spirits that are delivered by and ruled by Jesus Christ to deliver to us the love and the synchronicities and the signs and signals we need in order to go through life and be encouraged and to be victorious in our temporary life here on earth. Amen. So, before I begin, I would just like to say that um, if you'd like to understand Spiritism a bit more, I would recommend that you download my free PDF, Spiritism 101, the third revelation, from my site, nwspiritism.com. Again, that is Spiritism 101, the third revelation. It's free on PDF. It's also in French. Of course, if you'd like, you can get it in Kindle, paperback, or Audible format. And the other book that I would recommend you read after or before depends what you want and what how you learn uh, and how you approach these type of spiritual subjects. Um, is I would recommend you if you want, you can download the spirits book, and that, of course, you just put Alan Kardec space PDF. You can find all his books on PDF, and or you can buy them on Amazon. On the picture of my site, nwspiritism.com, I have a picture of Alan Kardec. It'll take you to the FEB bookstore, and you can buy the Spirits book from that bookstore. It's actually, they sell it, I think, at cost or a loss. And so you can buy that. Of course, you can buy it at Amazon and order it at your local bookstore. So, and oh, I see Kendra has joined. Hello, Kendra. So this book, to me, this is the first book I read, and this was just marvelous. It answered so many questions of, why bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people, and it just explained the whole gamut of why the world is as it is. Oh, and I see Timothy Flint's is on and Katira is on. So hello, and if you have any questions, type them in the comments below, and I will attempt to answer them. So what I do if I don't have any questions, I will I'll put up questions I've had from other people in written form. So on question number 2, because we answered question number 1 in a previous show, is how does a guardian angel stay in touch with a person? Now it's very interesting. It doesn't have to stay next to you all the time. It's not like it's not like those cartoons where you have your guardian angel on your shoulder. So it can be far, but there's a big but here. When you're newly born and until you're 7 years old, your guardian angel is with you all the time. Because you just have to be watched, right? Because we all know any kid under 7 has very little discernment. And so they are there with them all the time. And that actually corresponds, for those who might be interested, in the fact that a child is still dependent on their mother's blood until the age 7. When the mother gives birth and the blood given to the baby is really the mother's blood, and that stays with that baby in some form or the other until they're 7 years old. So the mother has effect over that child for that long, according to Spiritism. So a guardian angel can be in touch, can be close to you. Of course, you can't see them, although some people can. Uh, but what happens is a major event. A guardian angel can see, right. The higher the spirit, the more the spirit can see the past, present, and future of that person. So therefore, they can see and say, okay, what's going to happen in the future events? And they say, okay, I need to be there. So they can come down and be with you at that point in time. So that is a very interesting one. And um, because there's like a connection, as if you had between you and, say, your mother or your father, you had an open channel cell phone all the time. So you are connected, your thoughts. And if you think of your guardian angel, that thoughts goes to that guardian angel. That you are that line is open, kind of like the red line they show in the movies with the president line or that's talking to another country. Okay, let me go through. We have a question here. Let me hide this. Okay. Many people are channelers. I get invitations to participate as a channeler, but I don't necessarily like the messages I hear from those doing it these days. How to know who to trust too much? Well, that is, and that question is an excellent question, because that is what the book, and if you look at this, the medium's book, and this is where I would recommend that you really, of course, this is also on PDF, but you can buy it. It's called Allan Kardec, the Medium's book. And it goes through all the different types of spirits, the different types of mediumship, everything like that. And what it does is it teaches you to recognize, it recognizes the type of spirits that's talking to you. And this is why Allan Kardec's The Spirits book was so powerful, because many people have written wonderful books that have channeled spirits, but it's all from one spirit. Whereas Allan Kardec codified information from multiple spirits, from multiple mediums who didn't know they were asking different spirits the same question. Of course, this was all organized by the Spirit of Truth, as given, and this is what Spiritism says. It was all organized by the Spirit of Truth. And the John chapter 14, verse 15 and 17. If you love me, keep my commands, and I'll ask the Father, and he will give you another consoler to help and be with you forever, the Spirit of Truth. The world cannot accept him because it neither sees nor knows him, but you know him, for he lives with you and will be in you. And then he also said in John 14, verse 26, but the Consoler, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you of all things, remind you of everything I have said to you. And that, so Spiritism is the third revelation from multiple spirits in multiple levels. So that's the power of Spiritism. Spiritism does say be careful of who you talk to. And in fact, in Spiritist centers, they train mediums for like a year. And then after a year of readings about Spiritism and being all on the same type of level, people will then they will be part of mediums meetings, so they can talk to different spirits and learn what different spirits, and actually the spirit who's in charge of that meeting, there's always a spirit when there's like 4 or 5 mediums together, and they will bring in different types of spirits so people can have different uh, you know experiences with different levels of spirits. So that's a long-winded explanation to say that when people channel, a lot of people don't understand who they're channeling. And some of these spirits who are lower spirits, who are frivolous, or are, they just love to spout out stuff they don't talk about. And so you're smart. You understand that some of this channeling could just be, could be what's I've seen a spirit talk to us and gave us a different name, and they just kind of like babbled on, and they said the same thing over and over again, and it was like, no, this isn't who they say they are. And you're probably seeing the same thing. Back here, let me get the next. You're actually backing up exactly what I said. New Age liberalism. Anything goes, and the channeler doesn't like it. Then we question, why do they trust the spirit giving the information? Exactly. And if they don't like it, that means that there's something wrong with them, because they should question it, because you don't know. But so many people think that as soon as you die and become a spirit, you're this all-knowing, wonderful person. No. When you die and you lose your physical body, you are who you were. If you were, if you were a pickpocket or a criminal, you're still have criminal tendencies. If you're a nice person, you're still a nice person. You don't all of a sudden gather an immense amount of knowledge. Now, you may later, as you mature in the spirit world. But even then, if you're a spirit in the lower level, which a lot of these people will channel and they don't know it, then they should not trust. And that's why Spiritism says you have to have maybe multiple meetings. You have to look at their messages. And if their messages start out okay, but then over the long run, they always reveal themselves. So yes, you should question, why should you trust that information? Because it can just be, and a lot of them may be sincere, but they don't really understand the processes of the spirit world. They'll say, well, heaven works like this, but they've never really probably been there. They've probably just been on the lower zone, and they just think is what that is. So that's why it's very important to question that. And I totally agree with you. Okay, I have another question from Kendra. Can I become an angel someday? Absolutely, you will. And the speed of which you become an angel is up to you. Now, let me talk about how this is. There are no such things, and I know many religions teach that angels and demons were created by God. And what Spiritism teaches us is that all these different levels of spirits are us at different levels of maturity. So people who we think are demons or bad spirits are really physical beings who passed over, became a spirit, and is a malevolent or ignorant spirit. An angel is a person who's been through many reincarnations, have grown in wisdom and knowledge, and become a brighter object. And in fact, as you go higher and higher in the levels of heaven, you become brighter. And as you're not brighter because internally you have light, it's because you reflect the love of God and it looks bright. And that's why when people have had visions of an angel, or people who have had a NDE, a near-death experience, and they see the spirit, and it's like kind of bright and fuzzy, and it looks like they have wings because the fuzziness goes out. But they can see, a human face. They think, oh, that's an angel. Well, it's a higher spirit. And so there is absolutely, you will someday become a higher spirit. Jesus Christ, in charge of our planet, other planets besides, was like us, I don't know, 1 billion years ago, maybe more. So you too can be a very high spirit lord someday. Archangel, an angel, is all sorts of names for that. So the way to become an angel is to rewire your brain on Earth, because that's what Earth is designed for. Earth is designed to have the stimuli to change your character. You can do it in the spirit world too. I'm not saying, but what the spirits say is it's more efficient here because you have these blinders on, and we're only allowed to see about 1/8 of the world around us. And so we're really, the good word is we're really kind of weakened. So, and available to have the stimuli really give us dramatic episodes for us to analyze our behavior and our character personality to make foundational changes. And in fact, spirits will say pain is the great teacher. Now, when these trials and tribulations happen, they're not meant as punishment, they're meant as educational episodes for us. So the more that you will learn from these educational episodes and follow your conscience, become calm and cool, love, don't gossip about people, all those type of things, the quicker you will rise up in the hierarchy. Because when you rise up in the hierarchy of the spirit world, it's not like you just given another, epaulets on your shoulder or a piece of paper. You actually decrease your matter, your ratio of matter to energy. So you have more energy than matter. That's why you shine, and you have this love, and the love of God's environment reflects on you. So you'll go higher and higher. You'll actually will metamorphosize into this more energetic being, ethereal being, and you'll be changing. But if you look at someone on your own level, they'll look exactly normal. So absolutely, yes, you will become an angel someday. The Spiritism is also by Kendra. The Spiritism teach that we have a soulmate or twin flame marriage in heaven. The answer is Um, yes, it doesn't mean always, because spirits have free will. It doesn't mean that everyone is connected to everyone else. And in fact, there are actually uh, saying from spirits, they tell us very little about this, but there are actually dual spirits, uh, a man and woman spirit in one body at some point in time. So they decided to meld. Exactly how that works and can they unmeld, I don't know, but it was very interesting. It's like one sentence that I read this, so it's very interesting. And so, but many people have a soulmate or a twin flame, and what that means is not necessarily that you'll reincarnate together all the time. Now, there's plenty of history that says that family groups tend to reincarnate together, and there's always exceptions. There's always so many exceptions. But so, and there's been, brought to us by spirits of the same husband and wife. Their kids may change, and like a lot of these nice families will introduce a more primitive spirit into their family and hope to teach them something. That's kind of always when you see the black sheep of a family. That's the spirit they volunteered to try and help, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Now, given that, and actually, my wife and I have been told that we have been together in previous lives. Now, the sad fact is we were told we were together in previous lives, and in previous lives, we were corrupt many times. So we were soulmates in crime. We were put in positions of power, and they said that we cared more about money and wealth than we did about the people underneath us. So I've reincarnated with my wife. I don't know how many times, but that's fine. When people think of past life memories, I always go, you may not want to explore that fully. And I think the funny thing about is I've never been I've never been told, I should say, of anything good I've ever done in any of my past lives. Any mediums meeting that where I've been told my past lives are mediums coming and talk to me personally is always like, oh. In fact, one guy who was actually died recently, Chico Monteiro, and he was a healing medium, and he always kind of talked to me, and of course I could barely understand him, and but he had told me before that we were in the war together, and I guess we were in World War I on the German side, and the last time I went was more than a year ago because COVID kind of stopped everything. He like slapped me on the arm and said, "You killed lots of people." I go, "Oh my God," you know. I just, but he always told me these bad things with in good humor, so you had to appreciate it. So yeah. Um, so now let me get the other side of the equation. I've also read stories where these people who are soulmates, yet one soulmate depends too much on the other, and therefore they decide, well, I think you should have a life on your own. Let me give you an example: husband and wife. And the wife was very spiritual. The husband went along with it and, and acted spiritual and tried to do what he could. He's a great guy, but he probably didn't internalize it as much as his wife did. And the spirit said, I think, and his wife actually told him, she said, I've been talking to my spirit mentors, and we think it's better that you have a life on your own. And, I'm going to have this other life. I'm going to be born as a poor woman in Washington, D.C., of all places. That's what she said. And he says, but you will be born into this family. And he goes, but you have two choices, two brothers. He goes, one brother is going to be rich, and the other brother's going to be in a spiritist center, but he won't be rich. And of course, the husband goes, just like I would, he goes, oh, I want to be born to the rich brother. And the wife goes, no, that's not what you really need. Of course, I just love that because that would just be my answer too. So, but then she explained to him what he needed to work on. He said, "No, I'll go with the other brother." So that's why when I tell people, "Will I find my soulmate?" the answer is that soulmate may be in heaven helping you, waiting for you, or maybe in a different part, because you may need one life to to work on things that you were too dependent on your soulmate. I hope that answers. Okay, Katira. A close relative of mine helped the Mormon church with doing baptism for the deaf. She got so sick she was losing her mind, hearing voices all the time. We were so worried they didn't help her. Yeah, so it's probably she, by doing the baptism, she had a connection with the spirits who she was calling back, right? Because when you call a spirit, it will answer sometimes, not all the time. There is this passage in one of the books by Chico Xavier in the Andre Luis series, and this man was at a funeral, and he talked about. He goes, "Oh yeah, I remember. He saw this guy commit a murder, but he was so high up. You know, he was one of the rich people in town. He never said anything about it." And Andre Luis, who was in spirit form watching this, saw the spirit of the guy who committed the murder come right to the guy and goes, "How dare you, you accuse me of murder," which actually he had done, but of course he was still in the lower zone. So these people, they'll hear the thought of who called them, and if they were not of an elevated position, they will come and try and communicate with that person who called them. And your relative probably has mediumistic ability, I'm sure. And they were trying to talk to her, and she was actually hearing them. Now, then as she did more and more baptisms, and then as the first one said, "Oh yeah, she can actually hear us, but she's not understanding us right now." But the more not so elevated spirit would never bother your close relative. That just wouldn't happen. But these lower relatives who are still tied to Earth and want that communication with Earth would try to communicate with her, and therefore that's what happened. Now, I don't know what the Mormon Church. I think the Mormon Church is a lot like other churches where they don't really want to hear about people who had visions or hear spirits. They just think of that right away as demons. And these aren't demons; these are just spirits. In fact, I've been in spiritist meetings, and they have these. You could consider. They're kind of mean spirits. They've talked to us badly, right, when we were in the meeting, saying we're all stupid, which is fine. But they're just humans, and you can still talk to them. That's why when you talk to spirits, you should hopefully have some read the medium's book, and have some other mediums around you, and understand how this whole works, because there's good reason for the Catholic Church and other churches saying don't talk to spirits, but really is that it can be done with education and preparation. So I would talk to your close relative, tell her to read the medium's book, read the spirit's book, understand who is trying to communicate to her, and pray for those people who are in the voices, and pray for help, right? I hope she's okay now. Is there a spirit group in Arizona? I'm reading the book Spiritual Disturbances by Devaldo Franco. I really like it. I can't find any spirit groups near. Yes. I mean, that's a tough one. You'll find spirits group on the East Coast, and mostly really New York, Virginia, Baltimore, Boston area, Florida. And you'll see some in LA. There's one near Seattle. I think Dallas and Austin. But there is on my webpage, nwspiritism.com. If you'll go to the thing that says meetings, and then in that area where there's different links, there's a link to the Spiritist centers in United States. So this is another one who's also asking, are there any Spiritist groups in the Philadelphia area? So I would go for her. Let me bring that up. The best way for me is to show you. Hold on one second. And let me bring this up, because then you can come right with us. Okay, Mia, let me, wrong one. Put this on. Okay, so here, I'll share this. Let me get that here. So here is my site, nwspiritism.com. Oops, what did I do? Oh, there you go. Okay, so if you go to meetings up on the top, and then you come and scroll down a bit, and let me see. Right there. List of Spiritist centers in the United States. So then you click on that. And it will take you to the United States Spiritist Federation. And then you go click on Spiritist Centers. And you come down here. And here we go. So let's look if they have one in Arizona. There's Pennsylvania. I don't see anything in Arizona. Do you see it? I don't even see Arizona on here. So let's go to Pennsylvania first. But there's nothing in Arizona that I see. So I would recommend that you start, advertising in your bookstore or whatever. Start your own study group. And Devaldo Franco is a great author. Planetary Transition. He also has a follow-on to that book. And then the book by Joanna De Angelis. Is that Spiritual Disturbances? Is that one of the books by Joanna De Angelis? Just a wonderful spirit, and but I tell you, her books are you really have to read them carefully. They've got a lot of information in them. Okay, so let's go on Pennsylvania, because someone asked in Philadelphia area, and there you go. There's Philadelphia, Centro Spiritus Solar, Spiritist Society of Philadelphia. And there you have it. So there's two of them, and find one that has their meetings in English. And I know the spirits have been telling the Spiritist centers, because a lot of Spiritist centers are Brazilians who've immigrated to the United States, and they feel comfortable, and they want to have their meetings in Portuguese, but the spirits have told them over and over again, no, come on, you got to have your meetings in English. So maybe you can help them move them in that direction, and say, no, hey, Brian Foster says you, and the spirits say you're supposed to have these meetings in English. Stop being so comfortable. If not, start your own spiritist group, especially for Katira in Arizona. You might want to start your own little study group, and then make that bigger as you go on. Okay. Let me go to the next. Oh, and the book was Manuel Filomeno, another great author. I love him too. I think that's one, Planetary Transition. In fact, I have that book. It's right here. Yep. This is another one you might want to read. Dawn of a New Era. And this is the second book. You actually want Planetary Transition first. Extremely interesting book. Okay, let's show this one. This is Katira. My relative is doing good now after much praying for and over her. I personally did a small ceremony for the spirits and asked them to leave her alone. You knew exactly what to do. Told them to go and get help from higher spirits. That was exactly the perfect solution to that problem. Now, so and you have to feel sorry for these people, because these souls, I'm sure they're wonderful, nice people, but they didn't understand. Probably a lot of them didn't understand they're dead, and a lot of them are locked in the lower zone because they don't understand how to lift themselves up, right? Even though you can be any religion, but still not enough to get to heaven. There is this story in one of the Andre Luis's books where Andre Luis met this woman and she was like dressed as a, you know, in the 17th, 18th century. And she goes, I can't believe I was in this horrible area for so long, because I'm a very religious person. And I paid money to the priest, and the priest promised me with all the money I paid him that I'd go to heaven. And I also, in my will, paid to have liturgies, talked about me for many years, and it didn't help me get to heaven. And she goes, and the more he talked to her, it was like, well, I had to punish my slaves, and I had to do this, and so to her, the fact that she paid money, she should have gotten to heaven, right? Not that she was a nice person. I'm sure she was a nice person in her own way and her own thinking, but it was not enough to get to heaven. So these same spirits, they could be locked on there for hundreds of years, because when Mormons, they'll go back as far as they can get. And so some of these names, as you said, probably been there, and these poor souls are probably looking for any type of life preserver that they could talk to someone. And so you did a perfect thing. You did a small ceremony for the spirit, said, look, my relative can't handle this. She's not really equipped to handle it. And try and ask, like you said, get help from heaven. You got to start looking up, right? Don't keep looking down. So you did the right thing, and God bless you for that. Yeah, spiritual. Okay, thank you. Okay, and Kendra, I come from a church centered around the teachings of Emanuel Swedenborg. What a great person. Absolutely. A lot of his philosophies seem to be similar to those of Spiritism. Absolutely, they are. Now, I always say, like, Socrates is a precursor to Jesus. In fact, if you read the dialogues of Socrates, there is a lot of that love. I mean, and Socrates was, he was killed, had to drink hemlock in Athens. Why? Because Socrates preached that might doesn't mean right, and to question authority, and that, just giving all these gifts to the gods. And Socrates said, gods don't want your offerings. They want you to become a better person. That's the gift you give them. That was heresy, right? During those times. So Emanuel Swedenborg was, I can't remember exactly, maybe 100 years before Allan Kardec. Wrote great books, actually wrote them in Latin during the time. And it's interesting because I first found out about Emanuel Swedenborg when I was reading one of the books in Andre Louis series, and this high, minister was talking about, and we'd bring people to areas of heaven, and they would misinterpret it a bit and think they were on another planet or somewhere else. And that's what happened with Emanuel Swedenborg. So Emanuel Swedenborg had some things a little bit off, but on the whole, he was, I think, the precursor to Allan Kardec. I think he got people ready to start thinking that there is a spirit world, there is a heaven. And some of the things that Emanuel Swedenborg, like, it's not the deed you did, it's how you thought about the deed. So I'll give you an example. I forgot what the chapter was and what book I read this, because I think he did a book like Heaven and Hell and some other books that I've read. I don't have them in my memory bank right now. Just a brilliant guy. And he said, it's not the deed, it's the thought behind it. He goes, let's say you were a politician and you wanted to appear good, and you did this charity work just to make yourself look good so you can be elected. That's not a good deed. And of course, in our modern times, we see that all the time by corporations, right? And it's even as Jesus said, don't let the right hand know what the left hand is doing. And the corporation will say, oh, we're helping all these people. Look at us. Well, they didn't do it out of love. They did it out of marketing and free commercial and advertisements and propaganda for whatever brand they're trying to push on us. It gets pretty tiring, but that's what they do. So, and he gave all these different examples of saying, oh, someone was honest with their coworker, not because they wanted to be honest, because they wanted to build up trust so they could use that coworker at a later date. So all these type of things. And just a very interesting guy. He knew exactly when he was going to die. And you probably know this already, but he was And when he first encountered spirits, he was in this pub. I think it was in London, and the spirit came to him. And the first thing the spirit said to him was, "You're too fat. You've got to eat better." Now, I think I'm too fat too. And this is what I mean when people talk to spirits. I'm getting off a little tangent here, but this is why you know it's real, because when higher spirits come to talk to you, they'll just give you the unvarnished truth, and they'll tell you what you should be doing, and not put up with any. They're not going to flatter you, right? They're not going to blow what up your what. They're going to tell you, this is what you should be doing, and they'll be like that stern but fair person, aunt, uncle, or teacher you had in your life. So yes, a lot of his philosophies are similar. Some of his ideas are a little bit off. In fact, as I'm going through on Sundays, I'll get to that eventually. I don't know what month that is. But Allan Kardec had a mediums meeting when he talked to Emanuel Swedenborg, and very interesting. But Emanuel Swedenborg goes, Spiritism is more correct. I was a little bit off, but nothing major. So I thought that, so absolutely, Kendra, it's a great place. Okay, Katira says, I saw some of their stories and felt their pain. And this is the spirit. I think that helped. They were recognized, but there were too many. They had to move on. Oh, isn't that so interesting? So this is why there's a need for spiritist centers. Well, now the spiritist centers I've been at, they've all been in Brazil, right? No, I've been in other spiritist centers, but I've never been in medium meetings in spiritist centers in the United States. But in the spiritist centers in Brazil, they'll have mediums meetings to help regular people, like, can I talk to my son or my mother or something like that? But they also talk to spirits in need. And this is exactly why, Kateria, you need to have a spirit center and get more people like you so you can have mediums meetings so you can help spirits in need. I know a couple in Montana that do that, and they'll just cycle in spirits. Now, you can say that, well, why do they need me? I'm in a physical body. So they listen to because you actually told them, I said, go look to the high spirits, the higher spirits, they'll help you. But it's kind of like kids, right? They'll look at an adult, but they'll really will feel an affinity for another child. And this is what happens to spirits. And so spirits will take them and they'll bring them to these mediums meetings, and they'll talk through a trance medium. And then there's a consoling medium that will then talk to them, right? So you've got the trance medium who are channeling that spirit. And then you have the consoling medium who will converse with that spirit. They will feel more of an affinity with that physical human body and that physical person talking to them than they will to other spirits who many times they can't see because they're too higher, or they're just blind to that. And every time I went to these meetings, you're just like one after another needing help. I mean, some of them were sad. I mean, one time, this child says, "Where am I?" He must have just died. And they said, "Well, stay there. You're going to get help." And I'm sure the spirits brought the child in, and they're going to take him to a colony right away. But there's so many spirits that don't understand where they are. They don't even know they're dead, and they need help. And so you've been on the front line of that, and that's why we need spiritist centers with mediums meetings just to help spirits. So a lot of these people who are being baptized because they are ancestors of Mormons are they're in the lower zone or the dark abyss. Now, the lower zone starts at the crust of the earth to the lower levels of heaven, and the dark abyss is really kind of like a purgatory. It's even worse, from the crust of the earth down. Now, that's if you want to look at it in geographical terms. Pretty not very good place. But yes, that's and the fact is that if you're trying to do this by yourself, that's a heavy burden. Then Katura says, Yeah, I like Swedenborg too. Absolutely. And then, yeah, I've noticed that. That is fascinating. Good, good. Um, okay. Oh, here's Katir again. I can do both. I facilitate family constellations, and spirits are always present, but I would rather have a group have support. Absolutely, that you are absolutely right. I've had some periods of insomnia by doing this alone. Yes, that's why you. It's tough. Okay, Brazil, they've had spiritism. There's like I can't remember, 5 to 7% of the people in Brazil are spiritist, and so they've got people being trained. They've gotten plenty of people that want to be mediums. They train the mediums. They put them in groups. They support them. They have a spiritist center, and when you're in a spiritist center, they have rooms, right? They'll have a room. Let's say like my little office here. They'll have a dull light bulb. They'll turn off the lights and they'll leave it one dull light. They'll meet like at 7 o'clock at night because nighttime's a better time to talk to the spirits. And the whole room will be protected by other spirits, and the meeting will take place at the same time once a week, let's say, right? 7 o'clock, Wednesdays, we have this meeting to help other spirits. And that's why the spirits who protect that location will not let just any old spirit come in, because if you're in your home alone, you have no guards at the gate. Now you may if you've done this regularly, but if you just spontaneously do it, the spirit world doesn't know to set up the defenses within your house. Now you can still have these meetings in your house, but if you ever have a meetings and you have other people helping you, you need to do it on a regular basis. And in your first couple of meetings, you just need to pray and meditate and say, "No, I just want to talk to higher spirits. I'm not going to talk to Lord," and then just let them know what you're doing and see if you get the okay. It might take 3 or 4 times, but they'll finally understand what you're trying to do, and they'll encourage it, and they'll start protecting whatever room that you're doing it in. But doing it alone, it's really a heavy burden. That's why you may want to start a spiritist study group. You may want to say, "Hey, I need mediums to help me. And here's, this will teach you about read the mediums book together, read the spirits book, read, my free PDF Spiritism 101, so you kind of get the basic tenets with your group. You can give them all that free on PDF, and then work with them for 5-6 months. Let's understand the spirit world. Let's go with different types of spirits, and then start testing the waters if you like. But it's really a heavy burden on you to do this alone. And I know it's hard, but you've been given a gift, and you're here on my channel probably for a reason. And I don't know if you feel urge that you want to get more into this and want to help other spirits. And if you have that urge, it's probably because you're being inspired by other spirits that for you to help. And there's a lot of help is needed for these poor lost ones that don't really understand where they are, and they can be there for hundreds of years. It's sad. But I know there's spiritism has told us there's some spirits down in the dark abyss, which is like a type of purgatory. There's no eternal hell. Some have been there for 10,000 years, but they're just stubborn, right? That's like one of the questions. I think it was, "Will I be an angel?" Well, yes, you will. But there's some people that are so stubborn, they may take a detour for a couple thousand years because they won't change. So I hope that helps. So I really appreciate what you're doing, and your basic instincts are right on. Oh, Jascoti, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Hi, I love your channel. Well, thank you. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, here we go. What does Buddhism and Spiritism have in common? Well, I would say, as far as the basic tenets, I think Buddhism is one of the closest to Spiritism. They both believe in reincarnation. They both heavily believe in karma. And you have some of these, Buddhists understand that we are more light and energy to get to that higher state. So I would say that Buddhism is very close to Spiritism, and you don't see it's well partly organized religion. Spiritism doesn't really have any priests or anything like that. They'll just have centers where people talk, they give passes and stuff like that. But Buddhism has quite a lot in common as far as the fact that you're here on earth, you're here to learn, you're here to achieve a higher state, and you do that state by trying to be calm and cool under every circumstances, by knowing that materialism shouldn't be your highest priority, and it should take its rightful place in the hierarchy of what you need. So I'm just talking very surfacely here, but I mean, I believe that, and please let me know if you think I'm right or wrong in that, or you see other uh, um, in common uh, attributes. In fact, I talked to this one guy who uh, was very interested in Buddhism, and yet, and he went to a Buddhist temple and went to them, and he said that just didn't quite fit. And then he started seeing Spiritism. He said, "Well, I think that fit better." And I said, "Well, they're both great. It's all depends what you want. I mean, there's no in Spiritism. There's no dress. There's no rote prayers. It's actually even more cerebral and internal. And and a lot of people, when you look at organized religion, a lot of people love the place to go on Sundays and to get that lecture and feel that they've been fulfilled for that time. And Spiritism is more right, like, okay, here's the knowledge. It's here if you want it. You're not going to rot in hell. That's, you're going to be reincarnated many times. If you want to go to the nicer place, well, get on board, learn and study, but you're going to have to work for it. You can't just repent at the last minute. That does help, right? And just because you're baptized doesn't mean you're automatically going to heaven. And if you repent at the last minute, it still doesn't mean that. Sorry, you still have to take responsibility for your actions. It does help, and the fact that if you repented at the last minute, that this will go in your favor. And when you go into the world and you keep on that and you try and help people and you try to lift up and ask for God, right, for Jesus and God's help, that will mean a lot. But it's just Spiritism is just trying to tell you this is the processes, this is the organization, this is who you are, right? You're on earth. To me, I describe it as you're in a simulator. We are spirits, first and foremost. We are immortal spirits. We are put on earth for a very specific reason, and that is to change our personality and our character. And so why is earth kind of so tough sometimes? Well, if you have a pilot in a simulator, that simulator is not going to say, "Oh, smooth landing, smooth landing, smooth landing." No. That simulator is going to make everything wrong for that pilot happen, so the pilot knows how to handle himself or herself in every circumstance. And if he did something wrong in one test, he's going to have to be retested. That's kind of what we're at. How do spiritists deal with witchcraft and Santeria, etc.? Well, Spiritist knows it exists. And there's also, Spiritists know that there's a group like Macumbo and that talk to kind of the lower level spirits. And, spirits will say, well, if they want to talk to low level spirits, that's fine. You shouldn't try to do anything harmful to anybody, but whatever level of spirits you want to talk to, if that helps you or helps those spirits, God bless you. So it's not like, oh, you can't come to our spiritual centers because you deal with these other low level spirits. No, that's fine. The main thing is for each one of us to follow our conscience and try and follow the golden rule. That's important. Spiritists will say, for those on witchcraft who try to do harm to other people, that they'll say that will come back at you, right? Karma, that will come back at you. It's just like a prayer, a negative prayer, like, please God, I hope so and so, get something bad happen, and the spirit will look at that and they go, that might happen to that person. In fact, I've told the story before. I was in a mediums meeting, and this one spirit showed up, and she said, "Zika, Zika, Zika." This is back when Zika was, 4 or 5 years ago. And the controlling meeting goes, "What happened?" He goes, "I died of Zika." And it was this woman. He goes, "Oh, it's terrible." He goes, "Oh, what? It's even worse is I wanted my neighbor to die of Zika, but then I died of Zika." So that's the kind of, you just never know. And you think, and I was thinking the meeting, like, doesn't she know she's a spirit now? And doesn't she want to raise up a little bit? But some people don't. You never know. Okay. Um, you were right. But they have the karma concept, and killing of animals is prohibited. And in fact, Spiritism does say that we don't prohibit anything because we let that up to you, right? There's no certain thing you can do. But like Chico Xavier, the great Spiritist medium in Brazil, he wouldn't kill an ant, nothing. And my wife and I keep saying, "Oh, we need to be vegetarian," because they really say, you've got to treat the earth right. You've got to treat the animals right. Um, because spirits will say, you can eat fish and maybe chicken, but you shouldn't eat meat because they're being cruel to the animals and so forth. But it's not like that's up to you. It's not prohibited. And so, I mean, I agree with that. I don't follow that. I think if I was a better person, I could resist my urges, to eat meat. I'm still trying to get out of that, and there's no excuse for that. But yes, I mean, spiritists do say that it is better for you not to partake in any cruelty to animals. So you're absolutely right. So here's Kendra. One thing I struggle with is that I find my job takes up a lot of my time and energy and pulls me away from spiritual growth and focus. I need to earn a living, but worry it doesn't benefit my spirit. And absolutely. I mean, this is the conundrum that we all go through, because you have to carve out some time, but then you wake up, in the morning, you get to work, and when you come home, you're just like, I just want to veg out. I and this is where this discipline has to take hold. Now, when I was working, I'd get up 5 o'clock in the morning, walk to the ferry, get on the ferry, walk to work, come back, 5, 6 o'clock at night. But I just kind of forced myself to take that half hour to read about spiritism, to write about spiritism. And on the weekends, I said, okay, now this half a day is my time for that. Other time, I'm going to give myself some time, right? And you've got to rest and relax. You can't go, what you're saying, but it's hard, but it's if you can get that habit to carve out small groups of time and be regular about it, then I think that will make a big change. Now, here's Kendra saying, "Yeah, I felt like my spiritual growth was at an all-time high when I was unemployed, but since getting a full-time job, I've fallen backwards, but need money." I see. Yeah, this is the conundrum again. You're in, and so it's tough, and hopefully, the more you're in that job, you'll build up this endurance for that job, and hopefully you'll build up some reserve that you can get a little bit back to where you were, not maybe all the way, because being unemployed is great in one sense of the meaning, that you can concentrate on what you want. But if you really get into more and more spirituality, the spirits will help you find ways. Once they know that you're serious about this, they'll help you find ways to learn more and more. Okay, and this is Katira. I meant to help someone who's afflicted from witchcraft done on them. I hear that a lot. Yeah, so when witchcraft is done on someone, with that kind of that not so nice person is enlisting ignorant spirits on a mission to hurt another person. Now, that person who has something done on them has everything they need. Not that you can't help them. I'll talk about that in a second. Has everything they need to stop that. If they pray and meditate and they listen to their conscience and they do the right thing, it will affect them. It might affect them somewhat because the spirits may be inspiring someone else to do something like fire them from a job or something like that. But it doesn't make a difference if you get fired from the job because of inspiration from a lower spirit, and you pray and you meditate and you do the right thing. Guess what? You're going to find a better job. Maybe not all the time. You might have to go through some little trial and tribulation, but you'll find something good. Your guardian angel and spirit world will help you. If you set yourself up, you study about the spirit world so you can understand what's happening, right? Because spirits can't attack you, right? They can't hit you in the head or something like that, but they can send other spirits to try and think bad thoughts, obsessive thoughts to other people, and that confuses them. And therefore, they need to really filter everything through their conscience, learn to do that. And if they start getting obsessive thoughts, they need to do something else for a while. They need to cut that out of their mind, because that's a lot is how a spirit will affect a normal human being. In fact, that's what some spirits will do when they want someone to commit suicide. They will just give them negative thoughts, and be mean to yourself and do all that horrible things, and that will affect them. So you really need to rise up above. And if you pray with them and pray for other spirits to help that person, they can help block that. And they can also talk to the spirits that are trying to attack your friend, and the other spirits can say, okay, um, why are you doing this? Can I help you in some other way? Because what a high spirit will do when a lower spirit's doing something wrong, they won't say, stop right away, I have more power than you. They won't do that. They could if they wanted to, but they don't. They respect your free will. They'll say, okay, why are you doing this? And can I show you what love does for you instead of hate? Can I do something for you? And then they'll understand not to do that. And that's really what needs to be done. And then yes, we all have the situation of living the material life and the spiritual one all together. Yes, life on Earth isn't meant to be easy. Unfortunately, it's meant to be a learning experience. And the more we can understand that, and we can understand why we're on Earth, and kind of our mission is to improve ourselves. And then we can also, once you understand your mission and to improve yourself, you can also kind of laugh at things, because you can understand that, like why bad things happen to you. And it's just, my wife and I, when someone does something to us, it's like, oh, what did we do? Oh, at least I've learned that lesson. I would love to hear more about the purpose and function of prayer and how to include that in your day-to-day life. Yes, and in fact, it's important, because really prayer and meditation is all about opening yourself up, the channel to the spirit world, and to help them guide you, and help you learn to know how they are guiding you. And I talk a lot about this in my book, The 7 Tenets of Spiritism. And because once you start praying and meditating, and you start seeing these words in your head, be careful, because you never know who put the words in your head. But once you understand, the good points that are coming at you, and you see the signs and signals, and doors will open up for you. And so the function of prayer, and the best prayers are to help you expand your foundational good character. your good emotions, love, faith, charity, fraternity, honesty, is if the and this is what the spirits tell us is the more we try and say, help me grow, help me become a more successful, good person, the better, and they will do that. And then you will feel more comfortable. And as you follow your conscience, because you'll be helped in following your conscience, you'll feel less stress and you'll feel less affected by the petty things that happen to you every day, right? Lose your car keys, someone dents your car, all those type of things is become relatively unimportant. They're still important, but they're just you don't thrash about and agonize over them. That's just part of life, and that they're material. They're material goods, and the earth will disappear. You'll still be alive. The sun will burn out. You'll still be alive. You'll still be a spirit in some other galaxy. Who knows? So that's why I think the closer you can be through meditation and prayer, and do that, 5 minutes, 10 minutes every night, and then also go through, evaluate. Well, all I can do is evaluate kind of what I've done that day. How can I improve? And then kind of pray, like, please help me improve these areas. And then you can pray for other people too. I have people that I'll pray for and say, can you please help this person? And the more you keep it at that, the more you'll be helped, and you'll feel this calmness and this less stress descend upon you, and this higher vibration and harmony. And that's why, I recommend for those, I've recommended my free PDF, but this book, The Spirit Realm, Spiritism Has Revealed the Reality of Our Existence, kind of goes through, and from all my other 14 books, kind of says, okay, what is the spirit world? What is the physical world? Who you are as a spirit? How do you advance as a spirit? How do you advance and improve yourself as a physical human being? And what is the future of you and the earth? And hopefully that gives you a good view of all around us. Because it's spiritism, the basic of spiritism is the more information we can give you, the more you can process it and understand for yourself what you need to do, because you are your own best teacher. I cannot motivate you. I can just show you kind of the path and go, here's interesting information if you so choose it. At no point in time is, your whole life is ruined if you don't listen to me. That's not a big deal, right? Because you just, maybe slow down your progress a bit. Here we go. I have a chair in the corner of my room facing east because I like Hinduism, and I sit there and meditate or pray before going to bed. Just sitting there now calms me right down right away. And when I don't do it, I feel the difference. It is always better when I do. That's a perfect daily routine, and that's a perfect way to get to sleep, because and let me tell you why that's perfect. Is when you sleep, you go to the spirit world. And if you pray and meditate before you go to sleep, and you pray, please help me, then when you sleep, instead of going to like the lower areas or the undesirable areas or meeting undesirable spirits, the spirit, you'll be predisposed when you sleep and you're free to roam the spirit world. Spirits will come and say, hey, you want to hear a lecture on something, to how to make yourself feel better? And they'll take you to the spirit world. They'll take you to the place where this lecture is. When I was, it was like, about a year or 2 years ago, if I remember, I had, like, night after night, I just dreamt I was in these office buildings, and I would go from one, conference room to another, and I'd sit there like, what's going on? What's going on? Because I don't, in my dream, I didn't feel like I was absorbing everything, but spirits say you do absorb it. It's kind of recessed, and it's in the back of your mind, and will come out at the right time. And I was talking to this this one lady medium, she goes, "Oh yeah, you were taking the places, they were talking to you, or you were in lectures, because there's lectures in the spirit world, there are classes in the spirit world. They'll take you there, they'll and you will learn a lot. Now you may not be conscious of that learning, but it will come out in different ways." And it was funny because it was like this went on for, and even now, every so often, I'll just feel like I'm walking between a campus on some college campus or something like that, and think, Where do I go now?" Thinking I'm lost, or I'm at this meeting and I'm just sitting there like, why am I at this table? Very dull, exceedingly dull dreams, but those are actually pretty good because you're being taken places where you're shown these things. And I always felt good. And to me, when you have these dreams, if you feel good, that means you went to a good place, right? Because we are, we don't understand what's going on in this world without time. And you see time, right? You see the past, present, future, and it's just so different colors, different atmosphere. Uh, your your poor human brain can't process it, so you just see it in symbols. But I always say, and of course, what you see as symbols is what is pertinent to you. But I would say, if you feel good about it, that you went to a good place. So I think that's a great, sitting in your chair or sitting up in your bed, doing a prayer, meditate before you go to sleep is like the perfect timing. Okay, actually, I've gone over, and I want to thank everyone. Wonderful questions today, and I want to thank everyone for being part of our talk today. And I want to say, we're here every streaming every Monday. Oh, hey, let me do this one here before I get off here. Interesting. I go through phases when I've had bad dreams, and I wake up feeling worse and happy to be done sleeping. Then I go through periods of uplifting weeks. Uplifting dreams for weeks. Yes. So your uplifting dreams for weeks are the higher spirits saying, Come on, Kendra. Don't get depressed with this. You're being either pulled down, or you're having some kind of not so good group of friends take you to places you don't want to be. They're trying to scare you, or they're trying to get revenge on something you've done in a past life, and you'll feel bad about it. But then what will happen is the spirit world of the spirits, because you've got spirits up there that you're friends, and they're watching over you, and they'll say, "Okay, this is normal. This will make you feel better." And that's, so you've got to concentrate on the uplifting weeks. And when you have a bad dream, you go, "Oh, I must have been in that place. I hope I can help those people someday," and pray for those people that were in your bad dreams. Okay, I want to sign off now, and I look forward to seeing you all next Monday, and other people besides. Please share and talk about people. And if you don't have a spiritist group in your neighborhood, please start one. Start studying the spirits book together. And because all of us here in the English speaking countries, we are the tip of the spear. And in fact, the future of what Spiritism has said is Brazil will be the heart, but the United States and other English speaking countries, but mostly the United States, will be the mind of Spiritism. And we're just now, I'd say that not one of your friends has ever heard of the word Spiritism. And it's our job is to go out and talk to people